The crystal spires of the Zephyrian command ship sang their death song. Admiral Velthar pressed his translucent hand against the viewing wall and watched his people die. The harmonic frequencies that flowed through his body carried only sorrow. Now, 3 years of war had brought them to this moment, and defeat tasted bitter in the shared consciousness of his race. Below them, the last Zephyrian colony world burned. Orange flames danced across the surface where cities once stood in perfect spiral harmony. The Devourers had been methodical in their destruction, consuming everything that could fuel their endless hunger. Only 30,000 civilians remained, in the underground shelters waiting for rescue that would never come. "Admiral," spoke his tactical officer, Shanwei. Her voice carried the deep bass notes of despair. "The Devourer fleet has broken through our final defense line. They are moving to surround us." Velthar turned from the window. The command center around him pulsed with dying light as damaged systems failed one by one. His crew moved with the graceful efficiency of their people, but he could hear the fear in their harmonic songs. They all knew what came next. The Devourers were unlike any enemy the galaxy had ever known. They were not a species in the traditional sense, but a collective organism that spread from world to world like a plague. Their ships grew rather than being built, massive biomechanical creatures that fed on metal, energy, and flesh alike. Worst of all, they learned from every battle, adapting their forms to counter whatever weapons their enemies used. "How many ships do we have left?" Velthar asked. 12 dreadnoughts, 37 cruisers, and perhaps 200 smaller vessels, Shanwei replied. "The enemy has over 3,000 bioships, including their massive hive carriers." The numbers told the story clearly enough. The Zephyrian Federation had once controlled 40 star systems, their crystalline ships moving between worlds in perfect formation. The ethereals, beings of pure energy, had been their oldest allies. The architects, who built cities from living stone, had been their closest friends, all gone now, consumed by the endless hunger of the Devourers. Velthar walked to the tactical display, where holographic images showed the enemy fleet. The Devourer ships looked like enormous insects or sea creatures, their hull surfaces rippling with organic motion. Some were the size of small moons, their bodies pulsing with the lives they had consumed. They moved without formation, flowing through space like a living tide. "They have adapted to our crystal resonance weapons," reported the weapons officer. "Our particle beams barely scratch their hulls now. Even our gravity mines have little effect." This was how the Devourers fought. They would absorb the first attacks of any new enemy, losing ships but learning from the experience. Then their bioships would change, growing new armor against energy weapons, developing resistance to toxins, evolving countermeasures for every tactic. By the second or third battle, they were nearly immune to whatever their enemies could throw at them. The Zephyrians had watched it happen to dozens of other races. The proud Keth Empire, with their plasma cannons and shield technology, had lasted barely 6 months. The Void Hunters, masters of stealth and surprise attacks, had been hunted to extinction within a year. Each conquered species added to the Devourer's knowledge and power. "Admiral," Shanwei said quietly, "perhaps it is time to consider the final resonance." The final resonance. Velthar had hoped it would never come to this. It was a weapon that would turn every crystal matrix in the Zephyrian fleet into a massive bomb, creating a resonance cascade that would destroy everything within several light minutes. It would take out most of the Devourer fleet, but it would also kill every Zephyrian in space. The colony below might survive, but they would be alone and defenseless. The calculations show a 73% chance of stopping their advance, the tactical officer continued. It would buy time for other species to prepare defenses. Velthar considered this. Other species. Were there any left? The galaxy had grown quiet over the past decade as world after world went dark. Perhaps somewhere in the outer rim, some civilization still thrived in ignorance of what was coming for them. If the final resonance could warn them, show them what the Devourers truly were, perhaps it would be worth the sacrifice. "Prepare the resonance cascade," he ordered, "but give me 5 more minutes." His crew began the careful process of aligning their ship's crystal matrices with those of the rest of the fleet. It was delicate work, requiring perfect harmony between all vessels. One mistake would cause the cascade to fail, leaving them helpless before the enemy. Velthar returned to the viewing wall. In the distance, the Devourer ships were beginning their final approach. Their biohulls pulsed with excitement, sensing the kill. Some of the smaller ones had already begun extending feeding tentacles, eager to begin consuming the Zephyrian vessels. He thought about his people's history. They had been explorers once, traveling between the stars to catalog the songs of different worlds. Each planet had its own harmonic frequency, its own voice in the cosmic chorus. The Zephyrians had been the galaxy's musicians, finding beauty in the vast emptiness between worlds. Now their song would end in violence. "Admiral!" The communications officer's voice carried a note of confusion. "I am detecting an energy signature approaching from the outer system." Velthar turned. "What kind of signature?" "Unknown, sir. The readings are impossible. Something is moving through hyperspace at velocities that should tear any ship apart. Multiple contacts approaching fast." The tactical display updated, showing new blips at the edge of sensor range. Whatever was coming, it was moving faster than anything. In the known databases, the energy signatures were unlike anything the Zephyrians had encountered. "Could it be more devourers?" asked Shanwei. "No," the sensor operator replied. "These readings are completely different. The ships appear to be constructed of metal and ceramic, not biomatter. And they are broadcasting something. Put it through the translators." A new voice filled the command center, speaking in rough, harsh sounds, unlike the harmonic languages of known species. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Colonial Alliance vessel Indomitable. We received your distress signal. We are coming to help." Velthar stared at the tactical display. Terran? He had never heard of such a species. The databases contained no record of any Terran Colonial Alliance. Where had they come from? And how had they received the ancient distress beacon the Zephyrians had activated in desperation? That beacon was supposed to broadcast on frequencies known only to the oldest civilizations, those that had explored the galaxy before the Zephyrians had even developed spaceflight. Most of those species had been extinct for thousands of years. "Sir," the sensor operator reported, "the unknown fleet is dropping out of hyperspace. 12 vessels, unknown configuration. They are moving to intercept the Devourer fleet. 12 ships against 3,000. Either these Terrans were incredibly brave or incredibly stupid." Velthar suspected both. "Cancel the final resonance," he ordered. "Let us see what these strangers can do." On the tactical display, the newcomer ships arranged themselves in a loose formation unlike anything in Zephyrian tactical doctrine. They moved with purpose but without the perfect coordination his people valued. Each ship seemed to operate independently, yet somehow they worked together. The Devourers had noticed them too. The bioships began turning toward this new threat, their hulls rippling with anticipation. Fresh prey had arrived, and the collective hunger of the hive mind focused on these strange metal vessels. Admiral Velthar watched and waited. In a few moments they would all learn what these mysterious Terrans were capable of. Perhaps they would provide a few minutes of distraction before being consumed. Or perhaps, just perhaps, they would change everything. The battle was nearly over. But now something new had entered the game. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the alien battle unfold on her screens. The crystalline ships were beautiful in their own way, moving in perfect formation like dancers in space. But they were losing badly. The enemy vessels looked like something from a nightmare, all curves and organic shapes that made her skin crawl. "Captain Rodriguez, what are we looking at?" she asked her tactical officer. "The crystalline ships are putting up a good fight, but they are outnumbered 20 to 1, Rodriguez replied. "The enemy vessels appear to be biological in nature, some kind of living ships." Chen had seen a lot of strange things in her 20 years of space service, but this was new. The Terran Colonial Alliance had been exploring the galaxy for over 2 centuries, making contact with dozens of alien species. Most were friendly enough, though few shared humanity's curious nature. But these bioships were different. They moved, with a hunger that reminded her of sharks circling wounded prey. "Communications, keep trying to reach the crystalline vessels," she ordered, "and get me a full tactical analysis of those bioships." Lieutenant Park, her communications officer, looked up from his console. "Ma'am, I'm getting a response from the crystalline ships. They call themselves Zephyrians. Their admiral wants to know who we are and how we received their distress signal." That was a good question. The beacon they had detected had been broadcasting on frequencies that Earth's xenoarchaeologists said belonged to dead civilizations. The signal had been faint, taking 200 years to cross space to reach human colonies. But when the message was finally decoded, the meaning was clear. A desperate call for help from someone facing extinction. Humanity had a hard time ignoring calls for help. Tell Admiral Velthar that we are humans from Earth, Chen said. We received their beacon 2 centuries ago and have been searching for its source ever since. She turned to study the tactical display. 12 human ships against 3,000 alien biovessels. The odds were not good, but humans had faced worse. The key would be to use their advantages while the enemy was still figuring out what they were dealing with. Analysis complete, Admiral, reported Chief Petty Officer Williams from the science station. The bioships appear to adapt their defenses based on the weapons used against them. The Zephyrian energy weapons were effective at first, but now they barely scratch the enemy hulls. Interesting, Chen said. What about our weapons? Unknown, ma'am. Our kinetic railguns and nuclear missiles use completely different principles than anything in our databases. Chen smiled grimly. Different was good. Different meant the enemy would not know what was coming. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. She broadcast on the fleet frequency. We have stumbled into someone else's war, but these Zephyrians answered our ancestors' curiosity about that ancient beacon. Now they need our help. I do not know about you, but I did not come this far to watch good people die. The response was immediate. Captain Torres on the Defiant was the first to reply. Ready to kick some alien ass, Admiral? Captain Kim on the Challenger was more formal. Standing by for orders, ma'am. The other 10 ship captains checked in one by one. Chen felt a familiar warmth in her chest. This was why she loved serving with humans. They might argue about everything else, but when innocent people were in danger, they stood together. The bioships are turning toward us, Rodriguez reported. They seem to consider us a threat. Good, Chen said. Let them come. All ships, attack pattern Delta. Show these things what human engineering can do. The human fleet spread out in a loose formation that would have made a Zephyrian admiral nervous. There was no perfect harmony, no synchronized movements. Each ship moved according to its captain's judgment, but somehow they worked together like a pack of wolves. The bioships came at them in a wave, their hulls pulsing with excitement. Chen could see why they had been so successful against other species. They moved with the coordination of a single organism, flowing through space like living water. But humans fought differently. The Indomitable opened fire first. Its railguns, sending metal slugs at a significant fraction of light speed. The projectile struck the lead bioship and punched straight through its hull, leaving holes that leaked atmosphere and strange fluids. The creature writhed in pain, its surface rippling, as it tried to adapt to this new form of attack. The other human ships followed suit. Nuclear missiles streaked across space, detonating in brilliant flashes that lit up the bioship's hulls. Plasma cannons carved glowing lines across their surfaces. Gravity bombs created local distortions that twisted the enemy vessels into impossible shapes. The bioships had never faced anything like this before. Their adaptation mechanisms were designed for energy weapons and biological attacks. Kinetic weapons were simple, brutal, and effective in ways their evolution had not prepared them for. Direct hit on Bioship 7, reported Williams. It is breaking apart. Bioship 12 is trying to regenerate hull damage, added Rodriguez. But our railgun fire is faster than its healing rate. Chen watched the battle unfold with professional interest. The bioships were learning, she could see that. Their hulls were already beginning to thicken against kinetic impacts. But learning took time, and humans were good at pressing an advantage. Admiral, Park said suddenly, I am getting a transmission from the Zephyrian flagship. Put it through. The voice that came through the speakers was musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Admiral Chen, this is Admiral Velthar. Your arrival has surprised us all, including the enemy. They are pulling ships away from our colony world to deal with your fleet. Chen looked at the tactical display. The lieutenant was right. The bioships were redirecting their attention to the human fleet, treating them as the primary threat. It was exactly what she had hoped for. Admiral Velthar, we need to work together, she replied. Your people know these bioships better than we do. What? Can you tell us about their weaknesses? They adapt to any form of attack, Velthar responded. In time they will learn to counter your weapons as they did ours. But they think as one mind. They cannot understand tactics that rely on individual initiative. Chen smiled. Individual? Initiative was humanity's specialty. All human ships, this is Admiral Chen, she broadcast. You heard the alien. These things think as a hive mind. That means they cannot predict what we will do if we each act independently. Captains, you are authorized to engage at your own discretion. Show them what 12 different human minds can accomplish. The effect was immediate. The human fleet scattered, each ship following its captain's unique tactical style. Captain Torres took the Defiant in close for ramming attacks. Captain Kim used the Challenger's superior speed for hit-and-run strikes. Captain Williams on the Vengeance focused on protecting the smaller human vessels. The bioships tried to respond, but they were confused by the lack of coordination. Their hive mind expected enemies to act as a unified force. Humans acting as 12 separate commanders with 12 different plans was something they had never encountered. Bioship formation is breaking up, Rodriguez reported. They do not seem to know how to respond to our tactics. Chen nodded. It was working, but she knew it would not last long. The bioships were already beginning to adapt, their hulls growing thicker, their movements becoming more unpredictable. Soon they would figure out how to counter human tactics. But for now the tide was turning. The bioships were pulling back from the Zephyrian colony world, focusing their attention on the small human fleet. It was exactly what Chen had hoped. For Admiral Velthar, she said, your people need to evacuate that colony world. We will keep the bioships busy as long as we can. You would sacrifice yourselves for strangers? The Zephyrian admiral asked, his musical voice carrying a note of confusion. Chen looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. They were scared, she could see that. But they were also determined. This was who humans were. This was what they did. Admiral, she replied, we did not travel 200 years across space to watch good people die. Get your civilians out of there. We will handle the rest. The battle was just beginning. Captain Marcus Torres gripped his command chair as the Defiant shuddered under enemy fire. Through the viewports, he could see the massive bioship they were attacking, its hull rippling like living flesh as it tried to heal the damage his railguns were causing. Sir, we are taking heavy damage to the port side, reported his weapons officer. Hull breach on deck 7. Seal it off, Torres ordered. How are we doing on that big ugly out there? Direct hits on the enemy vessel, but it keeps growing new armor plating. Our kinetic rounds are still effective, but each shot does less damage than the last. Torres nodded grimly. Admiral Chen had been right about one thing. These bioships learned fast. What had started as devastating attacks were now just scratches on increasingly thick hulls. But humans learned fast too. Take us in closer, he ordered. If they want to grow thicker armor, let's see how they handle us right on top of them. The Defiant dove toward the bioship's surface, point defense weapons firing continuously to clear away the smaller organisms that swarmed around the larger vessel like antibodies. Torres had seen similar tactics work against pirate vessels. Get in close where their big guns could not track, and use superior maneuverability to stay alive. But bioships were not normal vessels. As the Defiant approached, the enemy's hull suddenly erupted with new growths, weapon pods that swiveled to track the human ship. Torres cursed and pulled his ship into a tight spiral, but there were too many guns. Energy beams lashed out, scorching the Defiant's hull. Damage report. Main engines offline, life support failing in sections 12 through 15, Torres made a decision that his academy instructors would have called insane. Prepare boarding pods. We are going inside that thing. Sir? His first officer stared at him. Nobody boards bioships. The atmosphere is corrosive, and they have internal defense systems. Then we will be the first, Torres replied. These things adapt to external attacks. Let's see how they handle us fighting from the inside. Within minutes, 6 boarding pods launched from the Defiant toward the bioship's hull. Each pod carried 5 Marines in full environmental suits, equipped with cutting tools and weapons designed for ship-to-ship combat. It was a desperate plan, but desperate times called for desperate measures. The pods burrowed into the bioship's hull like bullets penetrating skin. Inside, the Marines found themselves in corridors that pulsed with organic life. The walls were soft and warm, covered with a slime that tried to dissolve their armor. Strange creatures scuttled through the passages, defending their host like white blood cells fighting infection. Team Alpha reporting in, came the voice of Sergeant Martinez over the comm. We are inside, but this place is trying to digest us. Keep moving toward the central core, Torres ordered from the Defiant. Intelligence suggests these ships have a central nerve cluster that coordinates their functions. The Marines fought their way deeper into the bioship, their weapons leaving glowing wounds in the living walls. The ship's immune system responded aggressively, sending waves of defender organisms to stop the intruders. But humans had evolved as persistence hunters, and they kept pushing forward despite the odds. Meanwhile, across the battlefield, other human captains were developing their own solutions to the bioship problem. Captain Kim on the Challenger had discovered that nuclear missiles could overload the ship's regeneration systems if detonated at close range. Captain Williams on the Vengeance was using gravity bombs to disrupt the bioship's internal structure. But the most important discovery came from an unexpected source. Dr. Elizabeth Harper, the fleet's chief xenobiologist, had been analyzing bioship tissue samples collected by the boarding parties. What she found changed everything. "Admiral Chen," she reported over the comm, "I have been studying the bioship samples. These creatures are not just ships. They are part of a larger organism. They share a collective nervous system." "What does that mean for us, Doctor?" "It means they think as one mind across multiple bodies, but it also means they have a weakness. If we can disrupt the neural connections between ships, we might be able to isolate individual vessels from the collective." Chen felt a surge of hope. What would we need to do? The neural connections appear to be quantum-based, operating on specific frequencies. If we could generate a quantum interference pattern, we might be able to jam their communications. How do we do that? We would need to detonate a quantum resonance device at close range to their command ship, the largest bioship in their fleet, the one that appears to be coordinating their movements. Chen looked at the tactical display. The command ship was enormous, easily the size of a small moon. It hung back from the main battle, surrounded by smaller vessels that protected it like bodyguards. Getting close enough to plant a device would be suicide, which made it perfect for a human plan. "Captain Torres," she called over the comm. "How is your boarding operation going?" Torres's voice crackled with static. "We have reached the central core of our target. This thing has a brain the size of a building. My Marines are placing charges now." "Change of plans," Chen said. "Dr. Harper is sending you the specifications for a quantum resonance device. Can your people build one from your ship's quantum torpedo warheads?" "Probably," Torres replied. "But Admiral, this ship is not their command vessel. The device would not have maximum effect here." Chen took a deep breath. She was about to ask a man to sacrifice himself and his crew for people they had never met before today. But she knew Torres well enough to know what his answer would be. "Marcus," she said, quietly, "I need you to take your ship to their command vessel. Plant the device there." There was a long pause. Then Torres laughed, a sound that was equal parts fear and excitement. "I always said I wanted to go out in a blaze of glory," he replied. "Give me 10 minutes to get my people back aboard." While the Defiant prepared for its final mission, the rest of the human fleet worked to keep the bioships distracted. They had learned to adapt their tactics constantly, switching weapon types and attack patterns before the enemy could fully counter them. It was exhausting work that pushed both ships and crews to their limits. Captain Kim brought the Challenger in for another strafing run, her plasma cannons carving deep gouges in a bioship's hull. The enemy vessel tried to grab her ship with extending tentacles, but she pulled away at the last second, leaving the creature grasping at empty space. "They are getting smarter," she reported to the fleet. "This one almost caught me." "Confirmed," added Captain Williams. "The bioships are developing new tactics. They are learning to predict our movements." Chen watched the tactical display with growing concern. The initial advantage of surprise was wearing off. The bioships were adapting faster than expected, and the human fleet was taking heavy damage. 3 ships had already suffered critical systems failures, and ammunition was running low across the board. They needed to end this soon, or the bioships would adapt completely to human tactics. "Torres, how is that device coming along?" she called. "Almost ready," came the reply. "Dr. Harper's people are good. We should have the quantum resonance bomb ready in 5 minutes. "Make it 3, Chen said. "We are running out of time." On the Defiant, Torres watched his engineering teams work frantically to modify the torpedo warheads. Around them, the ship's hull groaned under the stress of continuous combat. Several decks had been sealed off due to hull breaches, and the ER life support system was working overtime to keep up with the damage, but his crew kept working. That was the thing about humans, they kept going even when the situation looked hopeless. "Device ready," reported Chief Engineer Patterson. "But sir, this is a one-way trip. The quantum resonance will destroy anything within a 50-kilometer radius." Torres nodded. He had known this would be a suicide mission from the moment Admiral Chen explained the plan, but sometimes sacrifice was necessary to protect innocent lives. "All hands, this is the captain," he announced over the ship's intercom. "We are about to attempt something that has never been tried before. If we succeed, we might just save an entire civilization. If we fail, at least we will have tried. It has been an honor serving with you all." The Defiant turned toward the massive command bioship, its engines straining to build up speed for the final attack. Behind them, the rest of the human fleet moved to provide covering fire, drawing the defending bioships away from their target. Torres gripped his command chair and watched the enemy ship grow larger on the view screen. This was it. Time to see if humans could really change the course of an impossible battle. The Defiant streaked toward the massive command bioship like a comet blazing through space. Behind Captain Torres, his crew worked with desperate efficiency, knowing that every second could be their last. The quantum resonance device sat in the ship's cargo bay, its modified torpedo warheads humming with barely contained energy. 30 seconds to impact, reported the navigation officer. The enemy is trying to intercept us. Torres could see them on the tactical display. Dozens of smaller bioships moving to block their approach to the command vessel. Energy beams lashed out at the Defiant, scorching its hull and sending sparks flying across the bridge. Evasive maneuvers, he ordered, though he knew there was nowhere to hide. All power to forward shields. The ship bucked and shuddered as enemy fire found its mark. Hull plates peeled away, exposing the framework beneath. The lights flickered as power systems overloaded. But still the Defiant kept flying toward its target. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Chen watched Torres make his suicide run with a mixture of pride and grief. She had known Marcus for 15 years, had served with him on 3 different ships. He was one of the finest officers in the fleet, and she was sending him to his death. But that was command. Sometimes good people died, so that others could live. All ships, cover the Defiant, she ordered. Give Torres the best chance we can. The human fleet responded immediately. Every functional weapon in the fleet turned toward the bioships trying to intercept Torres. Nuclear missiles streaked through space, followed by railgun slugs and plasma beams. The combined firepower carved a temporary path through the enemy formation. "This is Torres," came his voice over the comm, crackling with static from the damage to his ship. "Beginning final approach. Tell Admiral Velthar to get his people ready for a coordinated strike." Chen switched to the Zephyrian frequency. "Admiral Velthar, stand by. In 30 seconds, the enemy command structure may be disrupted. Be ready to attack with everything you have." "Understood, Admiral Chen," came the musical reply. "My remaining ships are moving into position." The Defiant was almost at the command bioship now. Torres could see the details of its hull, the organic curves and pulsing veins that carried nutrients throughout its massive body. It was beautiful in an alien way, but it was also the nerve center of a fleet that had destroyed entire civilizations. 10 seconds to impact, his navigation officer reported. Torres activated the ship's intercom one last time. "All hands, brace for impact. It has been an honor." The Defiant struck the command bioship like a hammer hitting an egg. The human ship's reinforced bow section punched deep into the organic hull, penetrating hundreds of meters before finally coming to rest in what appeared to be the creature's brain cavity. For a moment, everything was silent. Then the quantum resonance device detonated. The explosion was unlike anything seen before in the galaxy. Instead of the bright flash of a nuclear weapon or the contained fury of an antimatter blast, the quantum resonance created a ripple in space-time itself. Reality twisted around the detonation point, sending waves of interference through the quantum fields that connected the bioship collective. Across the battlefield, the effect was immediate and devastating. The smaller bioships, which had been moving in perfect coordination, suddenly lost their connection to the hive mind. For the first time in their existence, they found themselves alone, and they had no idea what to do. "It worked," shouted Rodriguez from the Indomitable's tactical station. "The bioships have stopped coordinated movement. They are just floating there." Chen felt a surge of hope, mixed with grief for Torres and his crew. Their sacrifice had given everyone else a chance. "All human ships attack at will," she ordered. "Hit them while they are confused." The human fleet fell upon the isolated bioships like wolves attacking scattered sheep. Without the guidance of the collective mind, each bioship had to rely on its own limited intelligence. They had evolved to be part of a greater whole, not to think for themselves. Some tried to flee, others attempted to attack, but moved without coordination or purpose. A few simply floated in space as if waiting for orders that would never come. The Zephyrian fleet joined the attack with renewed vigor. Admiral Velthar led his remaining ships in a charge that would have been suicide minutes earlier, but now faced enemies that could barely fight back. "Target the larger vessels first," Chen ordered. "Do not give them time to adapt." The battle that followed was more like a harvest than a fight. Bioships that had seemed invincible were torn apart by weapons they had already learned to resist. But resistance required coordination, and coordination required the hive mind that Torres had shattered. Within an hour, over half the bioship fleet had been destroyed. The survivors began a desperate retreat toward the edge of the system, their organic hulls scarred and bleeding strange fluids into space, but Admiral Chen was not ready to let them escape. "Pursuit course," she ordered. "We cannot allow them to regroup and rebuild their collective." "Admiral," cautioned Captain Kim over the comm, "our ships are badly damaged. We have lost the Defiant, and most of the fleet is running on backup systems." Chen looked around her bridge. Her crew was exhausted and damage reports were coming in from every system. But she also saw determination in their eyes. They had come too far to give up now. "The bioships are wounded," she replied. "This may be our only chance to finish them. All ships that can maintain pursuit speed follow me. The rest should assist with evacuation operations." 8 human ships followed the fleeing bioships toward the outer system. The chase lasted for hours, with running battles fought around asteroid fields and gas giant moons. The bioships tried to re-establish their collective connection, but the quantum interference from Torres's device had damaged something fundamental in their neural network. One by one, the retreating bioships were hunted down and destroyed. The last few managed to escape into hyperspace, but they were broken remnants of what had once been an unstoppable force. When the shooting finally stopped, Chen found herself floating in space near the Zephyrian colony world, watching her crews work alongside alien rescue teams to evacuate the survivors. It was a strange sight, humans and Zephyrians working together as if they had been allies for years. "Admiral Chen," came a familiar musical voice. Admiral Velthar's ship approached the Indomitable, its crystal hull reflecting the light of the system's star. "May I come aboard? I would like to speak with you in person." Chen agreed, curious to meet the alien commander face to face. When Velthar materialized in the transporter bay, she was struck by his appearance. He was tall and elegant, his translucent skin revealing the intricate crystal structures within his body. When he spoke, his voice created harmonics that were almost hypnotic. "Your people have done something unprecedented," he said. "In all our recorded history, no one has ever defeated the Devourers in open battle. How did you know their weakness?" Chen considered the question. "We did not know," she admitted. "We guessed, and we were willing to risk everything on that guess. Sometimes that is what it takes." "Your Captain Torres gave his life for strangers he had never met," Velthar observed. "Why would humans do such a thing?" It was a fair question and one that Chen had been asked before by other species. Humans were unusual in their willingness to help others, even at great cost to themselves. "Because it was the right thing to do," she said simply. "Because we heard someone calling for help, and we could not ignore that call." Velthar was quiet, for a long moment, his crystal body pulsing with soft light as he processed this information. "I do not understand your species," he finally said, "but I am grateful for it. What will you do now?" Chen looked out at the stars, where somewhere in the darkness, the surviving bioships were fleeing toward the galactic rim. The immediate threat was over, but she knew this was not the end. "We will help you rebuild," she said. "And we will prepare for their return. Because they will be back, and next time they will know what to expect from humans." But she smiled as she said it. "Let them come." The galaxy had learned something important. Today, there was a new player in the game, and humans did not like bullies. 3 months after the Battle of Kepler 442, Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt Zephyrian station, watching human and alien construction crews work side by side to repair the damage. The sight still amazed her. Humans, in environmental suits working alongside crystalline beings who communicated through harmonic frequencies, building something together that neither species could have created alone. "The integration is proceeding better than expected," Admiral Velthar said, joining her at the viewing wall. His English had improved dramatically over the past few months, though he still spoke with the musical intonation of his people. "Your engineers seem to understand our crystal resonance technology intuitively." Chen nodded. "Humans are good at adapting. It is one of our survival traits." Through the transparent aluminum they could see the first ships of the combined human Zephyrian fleet, taking shape in the construction bays. The vessels were a remarkable fusion of technologies, human durability and adaptability combined with Zephyrian elegance and energy efficiency. Each ship was unique, designed by mixed teams of engineers who approached problems from completely different perspectives. "Admiral," Velthar said quietly, "I have received disturbing news from our long-range sensors." Chen turned to face him. The Devourers? Not directly. But we have detected refugee ships approaching from the Vega sector. 17 different species, all fleeing the same direction. They report that something is consuming entire star systems at an unprecedented rate. Chen felt a chill run down her spine. The survivors from our battle, they have regrouped. It appears so. And they have learned from their defeat here. The refugees speak of new tactics, new bioship designs that are even more aggressive than before. The Devourers are adapting to counter what we did to them. This was what Chen had feared. The bioships were not just predators. They were evolutionaries. Every defeat taught them something new, made them stronger for the next encounter. The victory at Kepler 442 had only given them new data to work with. How long do we have, she asked. Based on their current rate of advance, perhaps 2 years before they reach this system again. 2 years to prepare for round 2 with an enemy that now knew what humans were capable of. It should have been a terrifying prospect, but Chen found herself oddly excited by the challenge. We need to call a council meeting, she said. All the species, all the survivors. If the Devourers are coming back, we need to be ready. The next week, representatives from dozens of species gathered on the rebuilt Zephyrian station. Chen had never seen such a diverse collection of life forms in one place. Crystalline Zephyrians, gaseous ethereals who had somehow survived the destruction of their homeworld. Mechanical architects whose bodies were living stone, and many others she did not recognize. But they all had one thing in common. They had all been victims of the Devourers. The enemy has adapted, Velthar explained to the assembled representatives, his harmonic voice translated into dozens of languages simultaneously. They are returning with new tactics and new bioforms. If we fight them the same way we did before, we will lose, a mechanical voice spoke from the architect delegation. The builders of the Rim propose a strategic withdrawal to the galactic edge. We can establish defensive positions in the outer systems, while the Devourers consume the core worlds. Unacceptable, replied a shimmering ethereal. We have already lost too much. There must be another way. The debate continued for hours, with each species proposing solutions based on their own experiences and capabilities. Some wanted to fight, others preferred to hide, and a few suggested trying to communicate with the Devourers to negotiate some kind of truce. Chen listened to it all with growing frustration. These beings were all intelligent, but they were thinking, like separate species instead of a unified force. The Devourers had succeeded for so long precisely because they attacked divided enemies who could not coordinate their responses. Finally, she stood up and spoke. With respect to everyone here, she said, you are all missing the point. The Devourers are not just another enemy fleet that we can defeat with superior tactics or better weapons. They are an evolutionary force. Every time we fight them, they learn something new. Every victory we achieve teaches them how to defeat us next time. The chamber fell silent as the representatives considered this. Then you believe we cannot win? Asked an architect. I believe we cannot win if we keep thinking like separate species, Chen replied. The Devourers have one huge advantage. They think and act as a unified collective. But they also have a weakness. They cannot understand how independent minds can work together voluntarily. She activated a holographic display showing the tactical analysis from the Kepler 442 battle. We defeated them before because they could not predict how 12 human captains would act when given individual authority. But they have learned from that now. Next time they will be prepared for human unpredictability. Then what do you propose? Velthar asked. Chen smiled. We do something they cannot possibly prepare for. We combine the unpredictability of individual action with the power of voluntary cooperation. Not just humans working together, but all of us. Every species, every tactical tradition, every way of thinking about warfare. She gestured to the diverse crowd around her. Imagine a fleet where Zephyrian precision works alongside human adaptability, where ethereal energy manipulation combines with architect defensive strategies, where every ship captain can choose their own tactics, but they do so with the knowledge and support of completely different types of minds. The idea was met with skeptical silence at first. The various species had been fighting the Devourers separately for so long that the concept of true cooperation seemed almost impossible. But slowly, voices began to speak up in support. The humans saved my people when no one else would even try, said a survivor from the Altair system. If they say cooperation is possible, I will listen. The crystal singers speak wisdom, added an ethereal. Unity without uniformity might be the path to victory. One by one, the other species began to agree. Not because they all trusted each other, but because they all trusted the humans who had proven that impossible victories were possible. Over the following months, the alliance grew. Ships began arriving from across the galaxy. Survivors, refugees, and even some intact civilizations that had heard about the victory at Kepler 442. Each brought their own technologies, tactics, and ways of thinking about warfare. The combined fleet that took shape was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Sleek Zephyrian crystal ships flew alongside bulky human dreadnoughts and graceful ethereal energy forms. Architect fortress ships provided mobile bases while smaller vessels from a dozen other species filled specialized roles. But more importantly, the crews began to mix. Human engineers learned to work with Zephyrian harmonic technology. Ethereal tacticians studied human unpredictability principles. Architect strategists incorporated chaos theory into their defensive planning. Chen found herself in command of this strange new force, not because she was the best admiral in the galaxy, but because she was the one everyone trusted to coordinate without dominating. Humans had a talent for bringing different groups together without trying to make them all the same. 6 months before the Devourers were expected to return, the Alliance fleet received an unexpected message. A single human ship, badly damaged, and running on emergency power, limped into the system. "This is Captain Rodriguez of the scout ship Pathfinder," came the transmission. "We have intelligence on the enemy fleet. They are bigger than before, but they are not alone." Chen felt her heart sink. "What do you mean, not alone?" "Admiral, they have absorbed other bioship collectives. The Devourers from this sector have merged with at least 3 other regional swarms. The fleet heading our way has over 10,000 bioships, including some that are the size of small planets." The news sent shockwaves through the Alliance. 10,000 bioships was more than anyone had imagined possible. Even with their combined fleets, they would be outnumbered 20 to 1. But Chen surprised everyone by smiling. "Good," she said. "The bigger they are, the harder they fall." Velthar looked at her with concern. "Admiral, with respect, those odds are impossible." "Admiral Velthar," Chen replied. 3 months ago, you thought 12 human ships against 3,000 bioships was impossible. 6 months ago, you thought any victory against the Devourers was impossible. Are you really going to start doubting? Human judgment now?" The Zephyrian Admiral's crystal body pulsed with what she had learned was laughter. "No, Admiral Chen. I have learned better than that." As the months passed, word of the coming battle spread throughout the galaxy. More ships arrived every week, not just military vessels but cargo haulers converted to fighters, passenger liners equipped with weapons, even civilian craft whose crews were determined to make a stand. The Alliance fleet grew to over 2,000, ships representing 47 different species. It was still outnumbered 5 to 1, but it was something the galaxy had never seen before. A truly unified defense force that retained the individual strengths of all its members. When the Devourers finally arrived at the edge of the system, they found something waiting for them that they could not possibly have predicted.